In the last 4 years, Florian Wirtz has rapidly risen to become one of football's most dynamic and well-renowned midfielders. Wirtz has boasted a high level of technical prowess, tenacity, as well as tactical IQ that's not only put him at the forefront of German football, but has directly led to Bayer Leverkusen being in their first Bundesliga title race in 13 years. So, the question is, where did this mercurial talent come from? Hailing from Pulheim, Germany, Wirtz, the youngest of two, joined FC Cologne's youth academy at the age of 7, where he stayed there until the age of 17. His stay in Cologne was by no means ordinary, as in 2019 he helped the Cologne under-17 team win the Bundesliga under-17 title, with one of the highlights including an iconic halfway line goal that would have honestly made David Beckham proud. This moment, along with a consistent string of high-level performances and development, led to Florian Wirtz becoming the quote-unquote belle of the ball, with German giants RB Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund, and the biggest heavyweight of them all in Bayern Munich circling for his signature. His suitors didn't even stop there, as his talent had caught the eye of Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. Now already this is a big deal. You're 16 years of age essentially, and you're being wanted by some of the best clubs in the entire world already. Especially Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, that's no joke, so clearly you're seeing talent from the get-go. However, in January 2020, Florian Wirtz made the decision not to go with any of those suitors, but to in fact join Bayer Leverkusen. And it's safe to say, that was the right choice. 4 months after signing with Leverkusen, Florian Wirtz became Leverkusen's youngest ever debutant at 17 years and 16 days old when he made his debut against Werder Bremen in the Bundesliga. But history was not going to stop there, because 18 days later, Wirtz made his biggest impact yet, scoring his first ever goal against Bayern Munich, becoming the youngest ever player to score in the Bundesliga. Now, I should probably put this into context for you. It's one thing to score your first goal in the Bundesliga, which is obviously a massive feat and should be held in high regard, but to score your first goal as a 17-year-old midfielder, I should add, against Bayern Munich, that is a big deal. A very, very big deal. And safe to say that all eyes on Florian Wirtz now. The emergence of Wirtz seemed to be perfect timing. You see, one of the faces of the Leverkusen brand, Kai Havertz, was on his way out of Leverkusen, eventually joining Chelsea for a fee up to £71 million. So here was a free open slot for Wirtz just to slip into. A solid foundation to develop within the first team and compete in a very high level league. This seemed like too good of an opportunity, so Wirtz rightly took full advantage of it. In the 2020-2021 season, Wirtz became a main member of the first team, being deployed out as an attacking midfielder or a winger. He went on to make 10 goal contributions in the Bundesliga that season, with 5 goals and 5 assists. He had done so well that season that at the age of 17, he was called up to the German national team for the World Cup qualifiers against Iceland and Romania in March 2021. However, he did not receive any game time, remaining on the bench throughout those matches. It wasn't all bad on the international front, as Wirtz made a big impact in the Euro Under-21 Championships for Germany that year. In the semi-final, he scored 2 goals, with one of them being the quickest ever goal in the tournament's history at 29 seconds in a 2-1 win against the Netherlands, and had eventually contributed to helping them lift the title in the final in a 1-0 win against Portugal. This significant impact for the under-21 side, as well as the hard work and rave reviews he received for Leverkusen in the Bundesliga, had led to Wirtz receiving his first full international cap against Liechtenstein in September 2021. Making his debut at the age of 18, he'd become the 3rd youngest player to make his debut for the German national side in over 75 years for the team. And the record-breaking team was not done there, as in that season he had become the youngest person to reach double figures of goals in the Bundesliga at 18 years, 145 days, and in turn had broken the record that was held by Lukas Podolski for 17 years at the time. Now, I should point out, all the respect in the world for Lukas Podolski, an absolute legend of the game, but I should point out that Podolski is a striker, or especially at the time was a striker, but was operating as a midfielder / inverted winger. It's not the same thing. So Wirtz breaking that record from midfield, that is a big deal. A very, very big deal. Now, at this point in his career, it's safe to say that things are going really, really well for Florian Wirtz. I mean, think of it like this. He's 18 years of age. He's a cornerstone for one of the biggest clubs in Germany. He's receiving an abundance of game time, which not a lot of 18-year-olds can say for the first team squads they play for. He's garnering rave reviews and attracting interest from some of the biggest clubs in the history of the sport. However, the following season would seriously test Florian Wirtz's mental fortitude, as in March 2022, ironically against his former club in FC Cologne, Wirtz tore his ACL and was expected to miss the rest of the year. Not just season, the year. And this would come at an inopportune time. Wirtz was in great form. He'd had 17 goal contributions in 24 league matches. And at the time he got injured, there was an argument that he was one of, if not the best youngster in the world, overtaking the likes of Jamal Musiala and Jude Bellingham. The time was not great neither on the international side, as the World Cup was due to happen later that year, and Hansi Flick had announced in May that he was actually interested in calling up Florian Wirtz to the World Cup squad. A serious injury of this nature could break a young talent. We've seen it before in the past. We've seen it with actual experienced players within the game. An injury like this could mess up their whole game. It could diminish their bravery to step out on the pitch and give 100%. It could take away the determination to get stuck into a match, and that's give 100% in all tackles and every facet of the game. It can even chip away at their ability, which they have crafted and honed for many years up to that point. But I can say that this tale didn't take a cautionary swing, as Wirtz proved that this was not the case for him. Leverkusen had handed Florian Wirtz a 5-year contract, demonstrating the faith that the Leverkusen hierarchy had in his undoubted talents. He made his long-awaited return on the 22nd of January 2023, 10 months after his injury, this time playing for Xabi Alonso for the very first time since he was hired. Now, this in turn was pivotal, especially what we're seeing happening today. Now, the time of his hire, Bayer Leverkusen were languishing second from bottom in the Bundesliga and had found themselves knocked out of the DFB Pokal by a third division side in Elversberg. So Gerardo Sione, who had been the head coach for over a year, found himself out the door and Xabi Alonso came in. There could be a fair argument to say that Wirtz's injury actually coincided with the sacking of Sione, because he had been such an important member of the first team. As I said in the previous season, he had 17 goal contributions. Before the end of the season, he would have got probably a lot more, but that came to an end with that torn ACL, and because he was still on the injury reserve list, Leverkusen were clearly still struggling because they did not have that important cog in the team with Florian Wirtz. Nevertheless, Xabi Alonso found a way around it, because while Wirtz was still recovering from his injury, Alonso brought forward the attack-minded 3-4-3 formation to Leverkusen, which has done absolute wonders to them, giving more players a shine in the spotlight. Now, this isn't to say that Wirtz wasn't going to be reserved a slot as an important member of the team, because upon his return, he had found himself accommodating the front three of this attack-minded team, and his presence coincided with a big rise in the season for Leverkusen. Now, you remember earlier when I mentioned that they were 17th when Alonso took over the team? They had risen to 6th that season, 11 places up from where they were before. I know 6th isn't the greatest place to finish in the Bundesliga. I know that they didn't get Champions League, but the team was in a relegation zone, okay? That is a pretty big deal to get from the relegation zone up to a European spot, which is a very big deal, I should add. The success wasn't done there, as Wirtz had contributed heavily to their Europa League Cup run to the semi-final. He chipped in with 3 goals in the knockout rounds to help them up to this point, before coming up against Jose Mourinho's Roma, and we all know what went down. Roma scored 1 goal. They took their second leg back to Leverkusen and they parked that bus. There was nothing that Wirtz could have done about it, nothing that Bayer Leverkusen could have done about it. Mourinho parked that bus nicely. It was game, set, match. Although the season was trophyless, although they didn't get Champions League football, the inklings of something special was on the cards of Bayer Leverkusen, and especially Florian Wirtz. Rolling this into the present day, now the 2023-2024 season for Bayer Leverkusen has been absolutely exceptional, and none less so for Florian Wirtz. At the time of this recording, Bayer Leverkusen are currently undefeated in the Bundesliga. If they remain so, fair enough. If they don't, it is what it is. But at this time, they are undefeated. They have put in the work. This season has been different in a great way for Leverkusen, not only due to the title challenge, but also for the level of expectation. Before the massive injury to Wirtz, as well as the appointment of Xabi Alonso to Leverkusen, a lot of the responsibility within the Leverkusen team fell to 3 players. Wirtz, of course, Patrick Schick, and Moussa Diaby. In 104 matches between the 3 that season, they had contributed to 84 goals just in that season alone. However, now you look at the Leverkusen team and it's filled with players chipping in. I mean, even Alejandro Grimaldo, a left wing back, has over 20 goal contributions this season alone. And while we're at it, let's shout out some other players. You got Jonas Hoffman, you got Granit Xhaka, Victor Boniface, who's turned it into the most dangerous and potent strikers in the world today, as well as the emergence of one of the hottest wingbacks in world football today in Jeremy Frimpong. So Wirtz is working within a really star-studded team, with responsibility being shared to the point where Leverkusen are not only just a dominant force in Germany, but are also red-hot favourites to secure the Europa League title this season, before making their inevitable return to the Champions League in the following season. At just 20 years of age, Florian Wirtz's talent and understanding of the game is way beyond his years. Finding himself entrusted to operate in highly tactical and demanding roles and thriving, it is clear to see why clubs such as Real Madrid and Barcelona are trying to circle around for his signature. Germany is said to be going through a transitional period with their national team after failing at their most senior tournaments. Now, one thing's for certain, if this rebuild is going to succeed and Germany retained aspirations to win the Euros and to win the World Cup, then Florian Wirtz has to be the first name on the team sheet for the next 10 years. Because from just his talent alone and his growth within the game, it's clear to see that Wirtz is a generational talent. Wirtz's impact in the game from the age of 17 has been nothing but exceptional. And if you want that generational talent to grow, then you're going to have to give them the platform to lead the way. And I kid you not, if Florian Wirtz is given the platform to help lead the German team along with the other talented players within their midst, I see Germany returning to their once former glory sooner rather than later.